battle. It certainly looks like congestion pricing finally coming to Manhattan.
The federal government gave its approval, so as soon as next April, it will likely cost drivers to enter Manhattan south of 60th Street.
Okay, so the dollar figures aren't final for the congestion zone, but the MTA has been talking about this charge of $23 peak hours, $17 off peak, perhaps as low as $9 with some discounts.
Governor Hochul praised the plan yesterday.
When you quantify the cost of the congestion in our city, it equates to about $20 billion a year. I happen to think we could do a lot better things with $20 billion, don't you? I think it's a complete waste. That's a loss to our economy. People are late for work, people are spending too much money on gas, and it doesn't have to be this way.
So the plan is supposed to have many benefits, but there is also a lot of criticism here.
So here to help us analyze it this morning is Emerita Torres, Vice President of Policy Research and Advocacy for the Community Service Society of New York. So welcome, Ms. Torres. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
All right, let's talk about your organization. Conducted studies on congestion pricing. So what can you tell us about your findings?
Sure. So we promote an equitable city and state, particularly for low-income New Yorkers. What we found was we looked at congestion pricing in 2017 and again in 2022 in March. We found that 57% of outer borough residents depend on the MTA for travel into the city, and they would directly benefit from congestion pricing. We also found that only 4% of outer borough residents, particularly those in Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, would regularly pay the congestion charge, as a majority of outer borough New Yorkers use mass transit. So the effect of congestion pricing as a fee is only going to affect a small number of New Yorkers, and it's going to affect an even smaller number of low-income New Yorkers. That's about 2%. Only 2% of low-income New Yorkers would ask to regularly pay a congestion fee.
Okay, so there is this concern overall, right, that the cost of driving into Midtown, for some, would force people to circumvent the fees by heading north to, say, the Bronx, which could increase traffic, health problems like asthma. Did you guys look into that at all when you did the analysis?
So we're very concerned about the environmental impact of these trucks. I think the last MTA assessment showed that around 704 trucks could be potentially diverted on the Cross Bronx Expressway. Yeah. We're concerned about that. At the same time, the MTA did provide an update, and they're willing to do several things to mitigate that impact. For example, they're going to waive the overnight toll fee potentially. They're going to try and get trucks to go at different times, not during rush hour traffic, for example. There are going to be new investments in the South Bronx, particularly to mitigate the impacts on asthma. Those that are impacted by asthma, young children, they're going to be investing in parks and recreational facilities along the Cross Bronx Expressway and other areas that are going to be impacted by congestion pricing. So I think assuming that the MTA, the governor, and others make those investments, I think the benefits are certainly going to outweigh the costs.
All right, let's talk about the folks that are really getting hit hard. New Jersey residents. I mean, residents, politicians are really vocal about this. They say they're going to be basically double taxed, paying tolls to cross into the city and then getting hit with big fees. I know a lot of things still have to be hammered out, but is that really the case? I mean, they have a point, don't they?
So what I'll say is our analysis did not look at that. But what I will say is that no one is forcing anyone to be charged multiple times. New Jersey commuters, New Yorkers, this is not a tax, it is a toll. It's a choice. So no one is forcing New Jersey residents to take the Midtown Tunnel into the city. They can also take public transportation. And in the end, congestion pricing, in addition to increasing investments in the MTA and public transit and reducing pollution, which New Jersey commuters also benefit from, it's really about changing the behavior. So we hope that, like New Yorkers, New Jersey commuters will rely on public transportation and not drive into the congestion zone.
Yeah, I mean, devil's advocate here for the folks. There are, for example, Congressman Josh Gottheimer, Governor Phil Murphy, who had said there just is not public transportation options for some folks in New Jersey, which is why they have to drive because of the lack of infrastructure and the delays in the infrastructure that took years to get. But that's not what you guys analyze. Let's talk about overall your organization study, which finds that lower income people in the outer boroughs really won't be hit hard by congestion pricing. So why is that?
Sure, it's because a majority of low-income New Yorkers and a majority of New Yorkers use mass transit. They use public transportation to get into the city every day. We saw that 57%, a majority of New Yorkers in the outer boroughs use mass transit. We've also been seeing really high rates of congestion over the last couple of years, post-pandemic, really. We saw a higher number of vehicle registrations. That has gone up. And we've seen congestion on bridges and tolls. So while congestion is going up, we're not seeing the same happening for mass transit, and we need to change that. So this congestion pricing is really going to change that.
All right. Emerita Torres, Vice President of Policy Research and Advocacy for the Community Service Society of New York. Thanks for being here this morning. We appreciate your analysis.